You know, sometimes a series of really tragic events are just, well, that's all they are, a string of awful coincidences. But every so often, they start to form a pattern, and that pattern becomes so specific, so concentrated, that you just can't ignore it. Today, we're looking at one of those patterns.
And that's where this quote from Congressman Tim Burchett comes in. It's a pretty stark warning, right? He's convinced that something deeply disturbing is happening just under the surface, and it involves some of the smartest people in the United States.
So our story really kicks off on February 27th, 2026. This was the day a man who, let's be clear, held some of America's biggest military and intelligence secrets in his head, just walked out of his house and vanished into thin air. This is the man at the center of it all, retired Air Force Major General William Neal McCausland. Now, at 68, he was known for being incredibly fit. A serious trail runner, he just cycled 60 miles the weekend before he went missing. Then, one day, he just walks out of his home in New Mexico and is never seen again. Now, this is where it gets really weird. He left everything behind. No phone, no Apple Watch, none of it. He took just 3 things: his wallet, his hiking boots, and a .38 caliber revolver. So yeah, the FBI is all over this. And not just because he's a general. It turns out, thanks to some leaked emails, that McCausland was actually advising Tom DeLonge from Blink-182 on his whole UFO disclosure project. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. And to really get why his disappearance is such a big deal, you have to understand the AFRL. McCausland used to be the commander of this entire lab, which is based at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. This place is the absolute crown jewel of America's advanced aerospace tech. And for decades, it's been at the very center of UFO lore. You know, the place where they supposedly keep the secrets from Roswell.
Look, it's not just us saying this is a big deal. Experts like investigative journalist Ross Coldhart have flat out called it a grave national security crisis. Think about the secrets this man knows. His vanishing isn't just a missing person case, it has potentially massive global implications.
A missing general with UFO ties? That's alarming enough, right? But this is where it gets truly disturbing, because this was not an isolated event. There's an echo, a really, really eerie echo. Let's rewind the clock 8 months to June of 2025. A brilliant NASA aerospace engineer named Monica Jacinta Reza went for a hike, waved to her friend, and was just gone, vanished. And the connection between these two, well, it's undeniable. Both missing. Both vanished on foot out in the wilderness. And here's the kicker. Both were deeply connected to the Air Force Research Lab. In fact, when General McCausland was in charge, he personally oversaw the research programs that were funding Monica Reza's incredible work. And the technology that ties them together? This is where it gets absolutely critical. Reza co-invented something called Mondalloy. It's a revolutionary superalloy, a metal so advanced it was the key to building a new rocket engine, the AR-1. And that project was designed for one reason: to make sure America didn't have to rely on Russian engines for its most important national security space launches. This isn't just about science, folks. This is about geopolitics. But hold on. 2 disappearances, that's just the start. The pattern turns truly sinister when you realize we're not just talking about who's missing. We're talking about who's dead. Just look at this timeline. In less than a year, this whole thing explodes. 5 brilliant people, all connected to America's most sensitive defense research, either gone or dead. It starts with Reza in June, and it ends with General McCausland vanishing the very next February.
And these weren't accidents or quiet passings. Nuno Loureiro, an MIT genius on the verge of a fusion energy breakthrough, was assassinated in his home. Carl Grillmeyer, a Caltech astronomer, shot on his porch by a guy who'd been arrested there before, but had the charges mysteriously dropped just 11 days earlier. And Jacob Pritchard, another AFRL guy, was part of a horrific murder-suicide. The violence here is just as clear as the pattern.
So, what is the thread connecting all these brilliant minds? Why them? Well, a lot of people looking into this don't think it's random at all. They think the answer is in the very specific and very shared work they were all doing.
So check this out. When you map out what these people actually did for a living, the implications are staggering. Reza and McCausland, experts in advanced materials, exactly what you'd need to reverse engineer a crashed UFO. Grillmeyer and Pritchard, they were all about object tracking and advanced sensors, the guys whose job it is to spot weird things in the sky. And Loureiro, plasma physics and fusion,
That's the literal textbook on how you'd build an advanced propulsion system. It's like a perfect checklist for a secret reverse engineering program.
And if that wasn't enough to give you chills, then there's the timing. General McCaslin disappeared just days after President Donald Trump went public, saying he was ordering the government to release its UFO files. That timing has fueled so much speculation that this is all part of a violent, desperate cover-up to stop those secrets from ever coming out. And again, it's not just internet sleuths saying this. Congressman Burchett himself is pointing to the statistical anomaly of it all. He's openly asking why these exact fields of research, advanced materials, propulsion, sensors, seem to be so incredibly dangerous for the people working in them. So where does all this point? Well, it leads to one of the biggest, most out-there theories in the UAP world, the existence of so-called alien reproduction vehicles, or ARVs. The idea is that these are craft built by humans, but using technology and principles that were recovered from non-human sources. A technology so powerful, so world-changing, it would be worth anything, including killing, to keep it secret. Which leaves us at a crossroads, really. We have two very different ways to interpret this whole chilling sequence of events. Is it all just a horrible coincidence, or is it a conspiracy?
Okay, so on the one hand, you have the official explanations. If you look at each case by itself, sure, there's a mundane answer. A hiker got lost. A terrible case of domestic violence. A random crime. A senior had a medical emergency and wandered off. Just a series of unrelated, terrible events. But then, you zoom out, you lay it all out on the table, you see the connections, the shared expertise, the timeline, the sheer number of tragedies in this tiny, interconnected group of people, all working on the absolute tip of the spear of national defense technology, and suddenly the whole coincidence theory starts to feel, well, it starts to feel pretty thin.
And that leaves us with the one big, unsettling question. What are the odds? Are we just looking at a string of terrible luck? Or are we witnessing a deliberate, deadly, and systematic campaign to silence these scientists and keep the biggest secret in human history buried forever?